anxiety. Um, Rather than post a song or a video about AI, I thought I would crowdsource and help me make a decision. I have the opportunity to move up to northern Arizona, specifically Flagstaff. And how this house started was is I lived in northern Arizona for quite a bit of time. I didn't live in Flagstaff, but Flagstaff was the nearest big town to me. So I was there fairly often. I know all about Flagstaff. And I ended up having to move to the big city down in the Phoenix metro area, and mainly for a job. And I always kind of planned on one day returning up north. And um, I like the car that I bought when the old car that I came down here with exploded on me. I bought something that could handle going off road, at least to an extent. I kept all my winter clothes, and not only did I keep them, I kept them in a space where I keep all my important stuff. Kind of all these psychological clues. One of my favorite pictures is a picture of AI generated of the 180 coming into behind Mount Humphreys coming into Flagstaff. It's a really cool picture. Um, so anyway, I always kind of missed it. My lease was coming up on this place that I rent. It's a very nice place. It's probably the best deal that I could find between the 51 and the 101, roughly. Kind of if you divided Phoenix into a quadrant, it would be the northeast quadrant. I think I got found the nicest, best deal. It's a great place, reasonably priced. But, I really started thinking about possibly going to northern Arizona again, toying with the idea. And so I thought I would ask you guys to help me make the decision. And before I make decisions, and again, most of you are just going to go, "Oh, this bozo's click off right now." But the couple that remain help me because the math ends up being you should stay in Phoenix. But my heart says I should go here. Now, some of you will instantly say, um, well, you should follow your heart. Yeah, with caveats. But anyway, here's my little logic tree that I did. So we got pro Phoenix, pro Northern Arizona, and not sure. Cost of living. It used to be that Northern Arizona, when I say Northern Arizona, I'm focusing on Flagstaff, but maybe Prescott, maybe Payson, maybe somewhere in the White Mountains. I don't know. Um, I just chose Flagstaff because it's something I'm familiar with. It's got a fair amount of services for a medium-sized town, so it wouldn't be like living in Timbuktu. And I'll go more into that. But and again, this will be fairly short. So anyway, cost of living, it used to be up north was way more expensive. It's slightly more expensive, but like apartment rents and all that, Phoenix has gotten so expensive that now it's not, you know, so black and white that Phoenix is cheaper. I'll give a slight nod to Phoenix, but not enough to tip any scales. Convenience. I always joke about if you live in Phoenix and you need to go to a Target, say, it's not that you need, it's not how do I get to Target, it's how do I get to which Target? How do I get to which big box store? Because there's just tons of them. And there's usually 3 or 4 of them within 10 or 15 miles of you. So definitely the convenience of Phoenix. You've got the big metro airport there too. Or if you're in, say, Flagstaff, you've got the Pullman Airport, which is a really small airport. And typically what you do is fly down to Phoenix and then fly out of Phoenix. So it just add another hop to your trip, but save you the 2-hour drive. So convenience is definitely pro Phoenix. It's got everything you want, except lately, just on a side tangent, I like going to coffee shops. And everything closes at 8 now. I mean, in the whole Phoenix metro area, there's maybe 10 coffee shops that stay open past 8 now. It's just crazy. And Flagstaff punches above its weight there because it's mostly a college town. So there's about the same amount of coffee shops that are open till 8, and there's even quite a few or a couple that are open till 10, some 12. So I don't know. Beauty, hands down. I mean, the Sonoran Desert has its own beauty. Don't get me wrong, But when you live in the concrete jungle, you're really not seeing that beauty except an occasional cactus. So you kind of got to get out of the city to kind of see that beauty, but it does have its own beauty. But with Northern Arizona, specifically if you're living in Flagstaff, um, you're a half hour away from Sedona. You're half hour away from Crater Park and a bunch of other things. You can pop up to the Grand Canyon if you want. You can go down to Prescott where there's a little bit more shopping, Trader Joe's and stuff like that. You do have to drive more if you want to get to those things, but I mean, within 10 minutes, you can be on a campsite and you feel pretty isolated. You're out in the forest. It does get 4 seasons. It does get cold. It actually gets probably colder than I would like it in Flagstaff. I mean, it gets cold, cold. It gets a lot of snow. It gets like 70 inches of snow each year. But it's high desert, so it'll typically melt pretty fast. Um, so that one goes for Northern Arizona, hands down. Not to diss the beauty here, but just you get that plus a whole lot more up here. Lakes, beautiful mountains, all that. Sun. This one might actually go here. This is for my son. Not to Phoenix, eh? Um, just I've got a really good setup for him when he's with me for the summers. And Flagstaff, I looked and I think I can replicate that there. It's got like trampoline parks. It's got places for him during the day. But it's an unknown how he like it, and he does like it in Phoenix. So that one goes to the meh, but it really goes here for Pro Phoenix. Jobs. Most of the jobs I'm going to do at this point are probably going to be remote. But if something happens in my job, like right now, I'm just on a contract and my contract ends in 18 months or sooner. Like they up it every 6 months. So I think I made it past the first 6 months. No one said anything. 6 months came and went, but I've got that 12-month mark and the 18-month mark. So what happens if I'm stuck up here and all of a sudden I need a job? And with my career, I could probably get a job in Northern NAU doing something IT related. Um, or I could work remote. And then if I work remote, it doesn't matter where I'm at. So, but it's a little more risky being in Northern Arizona Flagstaff than here. Medical, surprisingly, is kind of meh, but I'm having so much problems with medical stuff in Phoenix. The average doctor in Phoenix will see like 40 patients a day. And with the 10 minutes slated that they have, if you have any kind of complex problem, forget it. They're going to screw it up. For Northern Arizona, you maybe have a doctor that sees like 20 patients a day. So they have a little more time to do the nuanced stuff. Not saying either one, like better doctors and stuff. Obviously, if you have a specialty problem, Phoenix would win. But on the base level stuff, the doctors probably in Northern Arizona are going to be able to spend more time with you, just because they're less impacted. For me, friends, I have friends in Northern Arizona that are thrilled that I'm thinking about moving up there, totally pressuring me to move up there. But they wouldn't be in the Flagstaff; they would be in the surrounding areas, so it wouldn't be like I see them all the time. You know, I'd probably see them maybe slightly more than I do now. Where I do have friends down in Phoenix, I have a really good friend with that I hang out with a lot. That was really helpful for me when I was going through my divorce and all that because he went through a similar situation. So, um, or breakup, whatever you want to call it. So a slight nod to Phoenix there. Isolation. Isolation means what if I get in a bad situation? Technically in Phoenix, I do have family here that can back me up. I'd have to twist some arms though, or my parents would, because I used to be pretty close with the family here down here, but for whatever reason, I'm not so much anymore. Like they'll even be within a mile of me when I lived further up north, never said anything. Um, whatever. Church, slight nod to Flagstaff. I'm not really involved with the church too much. I did find a really good one in Phoenix, I think. I went there once. I'd like to go there again if I stay. I'd like to become I think as a Christian, you should be involved with the local body of believers. Just churches nowadays are such jokes for the most part. If you're in a good church, good job. So I do a lot of online stuff, but that's not the same. But I did find that there's a fair amount of churches that are like King James Bible, old school beliefs, and saved by grace, um, not too legalistic churches, which I think is the right way to go. Co-parenting. Initially, my ex talked about possibly moving back. That's pretty much off the table. But there is a slight chance in the future she can move back. And if she did move back into the state, um, it'd make it really easy for co-parenting. Because right now it's hard being in two different states, flying back and forth and stuff. It's very expensive. It requires a lot of coordination. Where if we were in the same state, even though maybe we live an hour and a half away from each other, it would be good. So she was talking about it. I figured she would probably not, and that's proven to be right. There's still a chance, but I'll put that in the May. Social, I put this in Phoenix because I do kind of have a life down here. I've got former coworkers that I could technically hang out with, I keep in contact with. I've got a loose network of, like I said, friends. Um, there's just, and plus I can like go into coffee shops. I've been to enough of them where people know me there, and I can chit chat. I've got my neighbors I can chit chat. It's not really that big of a deal. In fact, I'll even move it to the May. Um, because that'll build up again at Flagstaff. Like when I lived up in that area, I used to go into places and people would remember me and stuff like that. This crazy stuff. What if the world gets crazy? Do you want to be in Phoenix or Flagstaff or Northern Arizona, another place? That really, you don't want to be in Phoenix, but I don't know if necessarily Northern Arizona is that much better. Unless you're like a hunter and fisher and a real outdoorsy guy, then it would obviously be better. But I'm none of that, I do. This goes with the beauty. Let's make this a separate item, actually. Say like hiking and stuff. I do like hiking. I'm not crazy hiking, camping. Um, I do enjoy that stuff. Although for me, I'm like junior varsity for sure. I'm not going on 10-mile hikes. I'm doing, 2, 3 mile nature walks and stuff like that. But if I get up there, maybe I could expand out a little bit. So these are the pros and cons here. So what do you guys think? What should I do? My heart is definitely, here's the thing. I thought it was Northern Arizona. But what I'm worried about is that I'm worried that I'm just romancing that area. Like like beyond Flagstaff, I've lived in other areas in Northern Arizona, and I could go one of them. Um, but I was kind of focusing on Flagstaff because I think it's a good mix of. There's a couple restaurants, not a lot of restaurants, but there are a couple decent ones. There's some coffee shops there. You've got young people going around, so there's a lot of energy. Um, there's it's beautiful. There, it's easier to get out in the forest. Like say you lived in somewhere like say um, Prescott. Um, there's forest around, but it's not as prevalent. Really a lot of it's just kind of sagebrush type area where Flagstaff is really easy to get in the forest and stuff. But, so I don't know. What do you think? I could just bail and go to a better part of Phoenix. The area I'm in the Phoenix Metro is pretty good. I like it. But there's other places that might have a little bit more going on for me. I could go there. I could go to California. Obviously, a lot of the IT stuff that I deal with is in either Washington or California. So either one of those states I could just go. And then also, because of my son, I have the ability to live in Bulgaria. Um, since he's Bulgarian, I won't explain that on this video, but I ran the numbers and I don't make this much, but I just chose it as a number. Like say $150,000 a year. I wish I'd made that. I don't. But assuming that you made $150,000 a year, even if you took $20,000 and set that aside for emergencies, after taxes and everything, with the parity of the standard of living and the difference in tax rates and stuff like that, I figured it out. It would be like the equivalent of you making $180,000 a year here, and that's with $20,000 cash just set aside each year for occasional flybacks or whatever. And if you didn't do that 20,000, then it'd be like the equivalent of 200,000 here. So you'd be or greater. I mean, technically the parity of living is like 60%. So, but the way I calculated the numbers, I factored in a couple other things, but it would be, and plus Bulgaria, the food there is better than what Americans eat. It just is. I mean, look at me. I'm like this fat, slovenly dude. A lot of that's just because of the crap that is out there for me to eat. When I was in Bulgaria, I loved the food. I ate tons of it and I lost weight. So there's that. Plus, Bulgaria is just a great base for striking out to um, investigate. Like Bulgaria is kind of here, and I'll try to reverse this so it's correct on the map. But then you've got like Greece down here. You've got Turkey over here. You've got Italy down here. You've got a bunch of like all the all the countries that were blowing each other up, like Serbia and um, yeah, Kosovo and Montenegro and all those countries that are fairly so. Within a couple hours, you could be in all sorts of different cool places to explore, and I have that opportunity. That's kind of the long-term plan, though. Um, I need to work on some health issues, get myself a little bit down in weight before I leave the country. And would I be better at that living up here or living out up here? If I'm out in the beauty, while hiking around, doing some camping and stuff, at least for 5 months out of the year, probably wouldn't be doing it when it's really cold. Or Phoenix, when probably not going to do is really hot, so you have 7 months to be doing that. Um, you know, Probably the nod would go to Phoenix. So if you manage to get this far, awesome. Thanks for watching. I'm curious to what your thoughts are. Have a good night, and I will stop the recording if I can. We will see.